A couple of days ago, I went on my way to church to come to my office here in the church. I had made an appointment to get an oil change and a tire rotation. It was on the way. And I made that appointment for 8 a.m. I was there at 10 minutes of 8 before the doors opened. And it should have given me ample time to get here by about 9 o'clock, which typically is the time that when I'm here at the church, I'm here at 9 o'clock. Well, it didn't work out. I got to church about 9:45. And my first words to Mary, who is our administrative assistant, I said, well, I'm not going to do that again. It just didn't work. I was a little bit upset. I was sort of kicking myself. I had a full agenda for the day, and already I was almost an hour behind. I thought about this. I knew I was in trouble when they got my vehicle on the rack, and there was a flurry of activity of flat tires. It was at Byers Tire Service off of Warm Spring Road. I think probably a lot of you guys know where that's at. And, I didn't remember all my garage days when a lot of people came when the doors opened and with all kinds of problems, and we needed to tend to it right away. Maybe they couldn't get their car started, but I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking about my schedule. And as I'm a little bit upset, pacing a little bit, and I called Mary, and I said, Mary, I don't know when I'm going to get there, but because I know that they really didn't get very far on my oil change and tire rotation, because I knew that when they brought the vehicle down, they were only going to bring it down half, and then they could change the tires, rotate the tires. And Mary said, don't worry about it. We're covered. Something like that. Don't worry. And I was thinking about this message. What matters and the things that don't. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of stuff in our agenda that really, in the whole scheme of life, really don't matter. But what I'm going to talk to you about is what does matter. What I was able to do in that hour and a half that I thought it would be half hour, 45 minutes at the most, I met some really interesting people. Most of them were waiting to get flat tires fixed. And I'm going to tell you, I had a great day. Everything, from that point on, everything worked out. I accomplished everything that I planned, and we actually, my wife and I were meeting to our daughter, and typically, B had already said, well, probably we'll be late because Dad has a full schedule. We were 20 minutes before she got there. That's unheard of. I'm even going to go a little bit further. This past week, it was a wonderful week. It began with, and normally I don't come to State Line on a Monday because I work at home, but I was able to be a part of delivering Holy Communion to a young lady who was celebrating her 98th birthday, and that's Margaret Davis. And when I set this up for the coming week, I asked her, I said, have you ever had Holy Communion on your birthday? And she said, nope, never. I said, would you like it? She said, absolutely. So it was a date, and I had B. I pulled B from boxing just for half of a day. And how about it, B? It was wonderful. Every visit this past week, I was blessed probably more than the folks that I visited. God is wonderful. And folks, I'm telling you, we need to stay connected with those who are not able to worship with us. That they are a blessing. And many times, they stir our faith. Because there's a lot of wonderful, faithful people out there. So, we're different, aren't we? Look around. I mean, in appearance. But we're really different inside. We have different opinions. Different ways of doing things. There's things that we don't like and things we do. And there's certain things that get us upset. And I know that my sons have told me many times. It was just a few times, but now, you know what they tell me? Dad, you act a lot like Pappy. That was my dad. Is that true, Bea? She didn't even hesitate. We're in trouble, folks. John Ortberg, familiar Christian author, wrote this book, Everybody's Normal Till You Get to Know Them. It's a great book. I've got all kinds of little stickies. This is one that did not go to the Wilson College book sale because I grab it every now and then. It's a keeper. And basically, I noticed when I mentioned this that there was a lot of wives looking at their husbands. Hey, it's true. We all have our little quirks, our differences, and it's okay. Quite frankly, that's the way God designed this world. So, you know I'm going to tell a story. And it's a garage story. But I had a customer that was a regular, and he was very, very particular in everything that he wanted done on his vehicle. It had to be perfect. And we had just done a tune-up. Now, younger people wouldn't know what a tune-up is, but older people, we used to have to put plugs and points and condenser and maybe rebuild the carburetor. And you don't do those kind of things today. It's a different kind of world. And this particular guy, we had done a tune-up, and every day since, it wasn't quite right. It just wasn't quite right. So finally, I convinced him. I said, look, leave it here for a day, and we'll go over it, and let's see, can you do that? Many people don't like to leave their cars. They just don't. I mean, they might leave a family member quicker than leave their cars. But they definitely, this guy, I said, then come back and let's see where we're at. So four of us who were full-time in our garage. I can remember it like it was yesterday. We all test drove this. And we first of all, we put it on the scope. Now that was archaic too. It looked like a big old TV, and it actually would indicate if all the cylinders were firing properly, the points, condenser, the plugs, and in essence, it looked like everything was perfect. Okay? So 4 of us took a test drive. All 4 of us concluded that it was running perfect. So we all got together and we said, okay. And I was the owner of the garage. So I said, look, the man that did the tune-up, the main mechanic, I said, I want you to do one thing. Adjust something, but don't touch anything about the tune-up. In other words, maybe take a little air out of one of the tires. A pound. And what you can tell him, and truthfully tell him, we did a little adjustment. Do you know, when he picked up the car, we told him, we said, look, I want you to take it for a test run and come back and let us know. You know what he did? You know what he said? He was all smiles. He said, you finally got it! We didn't do a thing. For the tune-up, we didn't do a thing. People are different, aren't they? Huh? We get a little... We're focused on different things. And you know, the church is filled with people, aren't they? And they're different, and they're unique. And to come unified as one, the body of Christ, it's a challenge, isn't it? That we would work together. But in the Apostle Paul's, in that Romans text in chapter 14, through God's Word, tells us it's okay to be different. It's okay. Matter of fact, it's expected. Paul tells us that the Gentile and the Jewish Christians of different backgrounds and traditions, that it doesn't matter what one eats or don't eat, or what day or days of worship one chooses to honor God, as long as we honor God. And how we honor God, in what style that we choose to worship. There's different ways to worship. There's different ways regarding music, dress, Bible translation, manner of receiving Holy Communion, manner of baptism, whether it would be infant or believer. I mean, we have so many different denominations of our Christian faith because we differ on these areas. But what matters is this. None of us lives and dies for ourselves. But we live and die for who? The Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to God. What matters is that we live and die for Christ. That we have surrendered our lives to Him. And that's not easy, folks. That we will go out into the world to serve Him by serving and witnessing to others. And that is what He has called us to do. I know that's a short summary. But then I want us to spend a little time in that Matthew, and that's just a couple of verses text. And Jesus responds to the disciples of John the Baptist who questioned why Jesus' disciples were feasting when they and other religious leaders were fasting. And typically, it was part of the tradition that would be done twice weekly and always on the Day of Atonement. Always. And in essence, Jesus was using an analogy of celebration. And he responded, "How can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them?" While he is with them. Good point. And then he goes on to say, when he would be away from them, taken up to be with the Father, then there'll be time for fasting. But I want to focus on that little interesting parable. And let me go back. And actually, I'm going to start about the sows the patch of unstrung cloth, but we're going to focus on the wineskin. No one sews a patch of unstrung cloth on an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. And if they do, the skins will burst, and the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. How many of you have ever made wine? Okay. What happens in that process? Fermentation, there has to be a connection. Is sugar involved? Yes, it is. And it expands. It expands. And it takes some time. It takes some time. So, one of the things that, and this was in my seminary years, that I have really grasped, and in this particular parable, that we are the wineskin, and Christ is the new wine. I want you to think about this, because this is through reading commentaries and because Jesus does not go into, like he does with some parables, detail about what this all means. He wants us to think about this. So back to this parable. Christ is the wine, the new wine, and we are the wineskin, where Christ dwells within us. Without newness, room to stretch and have flexibility, what happens to the wineskin when there's new wine that is placed into the skin? It bursts, and it is ruined. And we not only lose Christ within us, but countless others for Christ, because if we don't have Christ, how can we share Christ with others? So, what is the bottom line? What matters is that we must be willing to adapt, change old habits, structures, traditions to preserve Christ and his church. And that we would not get stuck in a rut. Now, folks, I'm going to put the Marian people to the test. Have I ever preached that before in Marion? Something similar? Something similar. Thank you, Larry. Praise the Lord. Because, folks, we all get stuck in a rut. Every one of us. And what's most important is we belong to who? The Lord. And if we truly belong to the Lord, then the Lord has the final say. And this is all this being filled with the Spirit. If we're filled with the Spirit, then all these little quirks and differences, the Spirit has the final say. The Lord has the final say. Is it easy? No, it's not. If any one of us says it's easy, we need to talk afterwards. It's not easy. It's not easy. So, folks, do we have newness in this church? Do we have newness? We have a whole new structure here. This is the second year? No, this is the second year. We just finished the first year, so this is the second year of a different administrative plan. That's newness. And it needs maybe tweaked, and it's not been always easy. But has the Lord blessed that plan? I don't want you to answer. The praise band. That wasn't always here. Matter of fact, I guess it's been maybe 2 years. Because I was here when Zach Schaefer was standing over here, and I didn't realize that Zach Schaefer was my home church in Carlisle. He was just a little guy. Well, he might have been a little larger than that, but newness. Praise band is wonderful. We have been blessed with a staff for the size of this church. I'm going to tell you, folks, praise the Lord. It's phenomenal. Truly phenomenal. So what do we do with it? It's really up to us. It's up to us. But God definitely has the resources right here, right now, to make some beautiful things happen. I want you to read the newsletter, because I've been here just, how long have I been here? Oh, it was the fifth month. Yeah, fifth month. And it's just a short time until we're going to pass the baton to the new pastor. But I'm going to tell you there's been some change, dramatic from my standpoint. And God is working. God is working. That the wine is fermenting. And the key is we need to have a good, strong wine skin, because we are going to be stretched. We are going to be stretched. That's part of life. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. But it's part of God's plan. Would I have said yes if God wouldn't have sort of, come on, to be here with you for 6 months? Probably not. God has a plan. Let me pray with you. Heavenly Father, thank you for putting up with us for It's interesting how you devise such a unique kind of plan and then expect us to get it all right together. Lord, we are different. We have lots of flaws, but I think you give us what we need, the equipment that we need to move forward in a very positive and wonderful kind of way that will bring more people to you. We just have to remember that we need to give ourselves and our church to you first and foremost. You give us resources, but we don't always accept them very willingly. And Lord, I just pray that we will allow you to mold us in the way that you wish us to go. In the name of Jesus, amen.